Shereé.
And I'm Talisha.
And in this episode of Elevate
with Ankara,
we are going to be interviewing one of our favorite fabric store owners. Talisha, why don't you introduce our favorite fabric store owner?
And so we are interviewing CJ, and she is the owner of one of our favorite fabric stores, Ankara fabric stores, as we previously said, which is House of Mami Wata. And so I'm just going to go ahead and ask a couple of questions to you, CJ, and you can kind of just answer them to the best of your ability so that our viewers can get a little bit more information about you and kind of, just know what you have to offer. Okay.
Awesome.
And so I introduced you as CJ. Is that what you normally go by, or do you go by another name that maybe your customers would know you by?
CJ is the one nobody murders. So we just say CJ, keep it nice and light. We don't add any extra syllables. CJ is good.
Okay, well, great. And so where are you from?
Yeah, so originally I was born in Nigeria, but I grew up in Atlanta, so kind of here, there, and everywhere, and I've lived pretty much everywhere in the U.S., so yeah.
Okay, well, great. And what made you, why did you choose, I should say, to open up a fabric shop?
I think it really started when I was getting married. So in my culture, you have a traditional wedding, which is sort of like, guess with Ankara, with lace, the traditional customs, and then you would have a white wedding, which is your more traditional wedding that you think of. And so when I was looking for options for my sort of traditional outfits that I wanted to wear, I would see stuff on Pinterest that I could not find the fabric anywhere. Mm-hmm. I would go to like my local shops and none of the beautiful stuff I felt was there. So I said, well, we just can't lie to the people. We need to get this fabric and have it available for them to wear. So because I had that problem, actually, I ended up buying too much fabric, to be honest. And then I sold some and just realized that maybe this could be a business. So originally I started off by trying to make envelope pillow covers. I was going to do bibs, things like that. But once I had children, I realized that I was telling myself a story because I don't have time. I didn't.
Yeah. Oh, good. So that kind of goes into like the next question that I have for you, which that question is, what made you choose to specialize in Ankara? So, that kind of told that story, or is there more to that outside of that experience?
Yeah, it is a fabric business, but in some ways I also think of it like being a cultural ambassador. Before I got into this business, I was shopping at Joann's and Michael's and seeing those kind of fabrics. And in comparison, they're not as bright. I don't necessarily relate to the imagery, the motifs. And so you can see with Ankara, you're having rich colors that look great on people with melanin. They look great on everybody, but if you're not used to necessarily seeing something made for you, to come and see that, those bold colors, that personality, it just felt like I was showing people more about Africa than what you would stereotypically see. And so I end up having a lot of conversations about fabric now. So
Great. And how long have you been sewing with Ankara or making crafts? I know you mentioned the pillow cases and things like that. So how long have you been doing that?
I would say probably about since 2014, and my mother can sew, right? Mm-hmm, but she didn't want to teach me. So she just had a horror story one time. So she said, I'm not doing this anymore. That's
I'm
for
there
you.
With you.
Right. So I had to get a Groupon to learn how to sew. And I got a Groupon and took a local class here, and they taught me how to turn on the machine, which was so intimidating, right? Taught me how to make a straight stitch. I think our class was like to make pajamas or something. So I think that was like 2012, 2013. But once you can turn your machine on and make a straight stitch, then you can learn everything else on YouTube. And I have to thank you guys because it's people like you who are teaching people like us who don't really know what they're doing, how to make a few things. So since about 2012, 2013, I've been sewing.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I think Shereé, we have more questions for you, but I think Shereé is going to ask you another set of questions that
Sure.
she had in mind.
I do want to also mention that we can totally identify with shopping at Joann's and not necessarily always finding that perfect fabric for us. And one of the reasons why we started this series is because we've been so inspired and blown away by all the beautiful outfits, garments that people have made using Ankara fabric. It always blows our minds.
Isn't it? Yes.
It changes our minds.
It is amazing.
About patterns. Like,
yes.
You can see one dress made in a basic broadcloth or eyelet, and then you see it in Ankara fabric, and all of a sudden it's festive. All of a sudden it's show-stopping.
Yes.
So,
well, you can make the most simple dress, and it's not going to
and
look
it's amazing
because it is going to look fabulous because of the designs.
Yes.
And I try to stay away from a bunch of lines when it comes to adding because I don't want to mess up the patterns within the fabric. And it still looks absolutely fabulous. If I look on my Instagram feed, my Ankara prints have the highest amount of likes.
True. It is so true.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have anything else to add to that. I mean, that's the truth, right? I mean, I don't have much more than I can only do a little bit, but it ends up looking great because the fabric looks great already. So I'm with you. Yeah,
it's true. Well, I'm going to be asking you some questions about your shop.
Yes.
Okay? Now, your shop is no stranger to most of us women of color out here showing.
Thank you.
Love your shop,
but
there are some viewers that maybe they haven't sewn with Ankara fabric before. Maybe they don't know where to start, like which stores to visit. And so we want to know, is your store online based or do you have a physical brick and mortar location?
I do not have a physical brick and mortar location at this time. And I think I was thinking more about it before COVID, but COVID reset the world. So we're going to figure out what we're going to do. But for now, I'm online. So I'm at mamiwata.com. And I'm also on Etsy under the same shop name. So not now, but I'm thinking about it still. We're still online on it.
Like most people, because of the pandemic, we're all shopping online.
Yeah.
Let's be real.
Yeah.
I do want to say that your website has some very eye-catching fabrics, and it's made it very easy to shop your website. The pictures, the quality, it's really great. You already answered how long you've had your shop, right? So what we want to know is what makes your shop unique and special?
Well, my sweet spot is bright and bold. I mean, Ankara comes in all different shades. It comes in all different scales, but my sweet spot is going to be that bright, bold, normally large print. I have ventured more into quilting fabric, and quilters like smaller scale prints, so I do that. And actually, I love to talk with people because they'll give me ideas of things to add to the shop and things they want to know. But I like bright, bold stuff, so that's sort of my specialty. And then other things that differentiate me is, look, I feel like once you purchase it, it belongs to you, and I'm going to get it out the door to you. I'm not going to hold it for a day. I will get it right out to you.
I appreciate
ASAP. I'm beating Amazon. I'm beating the mailman. I'm going to beat everybody because it's yours. And a lot of times it's for weddings or a party or something, and you just don't have time to play. So I mean, I have customers that'll say, look, I haven't got my package yet, and I know it's not you, but what can you do? And that's fine. But quick shipping, definitely try to be professional. I mean, I've purchased from people who, have just talked to me any kind of way. So I always really try to work with people as long as they're semi-reasonable. So those are the things that differentiate me. I also have a lot of inventory, always trying to look for something. People love to mix and match. So I'm very much into hearing feedback and sort of acting on that, as well as getting things out the door quickly, having a good variety of things to choose from. So, yeah.
That's great. So another question that I have for you is, where do you source your fabric from? Does your fabric come from Africa? Where does it come from?
Yes, and I'm so glad that you asked that question because I this is a whole topic. So I always try to source my fabric from Africa first. But I think what people are really looking for is, where is the fabric made? So many times you do get something from Africa, but it's not made in Africa. Just like here, you go to Walmart, yes, you got it in Atlanta, Georgia, but it's not necessarily made that way. So sometimes you are buying things that are Chinese fabrics, or you're buying things that are made in India or Pakistan. And that really doesn't bother me, but a lot of times I will get people who just want something made in Africa, from Africa. And increasingly that's tough. I mean, I have my suppliers in Africa who, especially during the pandemic, they closed. I mean, some of the manufacturers, they closed, and they are now trying to open up, but you always have the socio-political backgrounds to contend with. So I was just having a conversation with one of my biggest suppliers in Nigeria, and she said her accounts were frozen.
Wow.
Nigeria was trying to force them to return to domestic manufacturing. But you can imagine, if you put a lien on someone's accounts, their whole life falls apart. That's not necessarily good for business. So, and you always have to battle, contend with things like air freight, which has gone through the roof, ocean freight, everything. So like the supply chain stuff that's been happening in the background has been a zoo. So you just have to be flexible.
Yeah. I think that seems to be an issue with a lot of small business owners, is supply, right? Right. Yeah. Well, I'm happy that... Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No.
I was just going to say that I'm happy that you're able to continue to thrive after this COVID.
Yeah, no, there was a point in COVID that, I think it was really the turn of this year, last year, where like nothing was coming through the ports. And it wasn't just me, right? I turned on the TV, the toy manufacturers were complaining, the electronics manufacturers, everybody was feeling the crush. And I think there was a backup at the LA port, Savannah port, everybody. So, and then all of it came at once after the holiday season, right? It's like, oh, okay, thanks. So you just, life punches you, and you just keep going. What can you do?
Well, as we are very inspired by all the lovely prints you have in your shop, and we primarily sew garments, Talisha does amazing handbags. Listen, wristlets, big bags, she can do it, okay?
That's why I said, I don't know why y'all want to talk to me, because you guys are the ones. Okay? You guys have the talent.
You do it without the product.
Contributing to the God-given talent that you have. But that's
listen, you have a great eye for fabrics.
Thank you.
Without that great eye, we couldn't create these handbags.
I'll accept that. I'll take that.
But what I want to ask you is, do you have any special tricks, tips for using this fabric? This is a fabric that I find is probably one of the easier fabrics to work with, but even still, for someone who's just gotten into sewing, which some of our viewers haven't even started sewing yet, they're just curious about sewing. What are some tips and tricks that you have for sewing with Ankara?
Well, one thing that tends to really throw people off is like the wax texture. So that's a common thing in Africa, for you to have the wax fabric. That's just, that's the origin of fabric. That's how it started. But sometimes people are like really thrown off by that. And you can just wash it. If you wash it in cold water, I always recommend cold water, because the fabrics come from all sorts of manufacturers. That wax texture is going to go away. So you should never be intimidated by the wax. I personally like the wax fabrics because I'm not as skilled as some of you guys, so I can fold it, and my hem will stay just like that. I don't have to iron. It will stay and so that's great to me. Another thing I get a lot of concern about are the manufacturer's labels. So most people have never dealt with them, but typically on Ankara, you'll have anywhere from 3 to 4 or 5 adhesive manufacturer's labels. Believe it or not, some people really love those labels. And then there's some people who really hate those labels, but they're really easy to remove with a warm iron. You just apply it to the reverse side or even on top, and that will sort of weaken the adhesive and you can peel it right off. A product, sometimes you'll have leftover adhesive, and there's a product called Goo Gone that's sold in Target, Walmart, just pretty much any typical, even your grocery store. You can apply that to it and wash it off. But whatever you do, don't sew a garment with the manufacturer's label and ship it to your customer. That's happened to me before.
I want to say that my first round of, and even now, as I move forward with purchasing Ankara, my first big bundle came from you. And the only thing I could think of was those labels, because I had purchased Ankara fabric off of the internet before, and it just came. I didn't know what to do, so I just cut around it. But
I did that too.
I tried to wash it before I knew. I just washed the whole thing, and it came right back to me.
But when I got your package, you had a card in there that gave instructions, and I'm like, "This is gold! Oh my goodness!" Yeah. I put it on.
Thank you for saying that. Thank you.
Yeah, and it's and I didn't even have to look into, because I was getting ready to go down the rabbit hole of YouTube to try to figure it out. So I didn't have to cut around it.
Yeah.
So thank you for that, because there are people that are just getting into using Ankara fabric, so they just simply do what Shereé and I had done, which is just cut around it.
Look,
and
I was
not
one
necessarily
of them.
What you want to do.
I was one of them. I left it on in there. After I washed it and it didn't come off, I said, well, this must be the Lord. I'll just turn this inside out and I'll wear it.
I don't know if this is a bad thing, but I've even wet a paper towel and steamed it to try to lift it up. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But I do have a question. Is there a reason why there's so many labels on there? Does that differentiate it from a different type?
It's a quality thing. It's sort of like when people go buy Gucci and then they go use the Gucci bag to carry everything. So it's like a status symbol. So, especially if there are bigger name brands that you really like, you want that label to be there. And if you're giving it as a gift, which culturally, a lot of times you might, let's say, it's very common to give fabric culturally. So that label is like an extra, I really tried, I really thought of you, and it's brand new. So there are reasons why they like it. And I think the manufacturers are selling worldwide. And so in Africa, it's not, it's fine. It's people want to see the label. They want it there. But when you're thinking about, it's like a stamp of approval. It's like, I got you the top of the line, or I got you this or whatever. I wish they would take the labels off or just make them easy to remove, because there are some labels you can literally peel off. No adhesive is left, but some labels are like, what is this, Gorilla Glue?
Right.
What is going on? Right.
Well, I have one question in regards to that. Now, of course, because it's a hassle, you have to, before you wash it, you have another step by removing the labels, right? So, but I did receive a 6-yard pack of Ankara fabric. And although I don't like the steps of having to remove the labels, I didn't have any labels and I felt a certain type of way. Really? So what does that mean when you receive a bundle and you don't have any labels?
Well, that's could mean a lot of different things.
And it didn't come from you.
But I have recently received fabric that didn't have the label, and I didn't mind, but now I had to put something over, there might be this adhesive patch and this might be what it is, but sometimes it's a customs issue. Sometimes the fabric goes through different countries which have their own regulations about what can be on the package, so sometimes they take it off. Sometimes maybe somebody requested that it be removed. I had a conversation with one supplier and I was like, hey, if you're going to custom print this for me, can it not be there? But she had already put it there. Maybe she just misinterpreted me and she just went to manually take them off. So there's lots of different reasons why that may happen, but a lot of times it might be a customs requirement thing.
Okay, so this question isn't on the list, but I'm gonna ask it to both of you because I think it's a good question.
Please.
Do you have any tips for selecting the right type of print for the right project? So is there something that you think about when you're considering which fabric to choose for your project?
I mean, I think that's personal, maybe. I mean, for like, the quilting set, like I know they like smaller scale stuff. And I know if it's like a handbag you made, and I know if it's for sale, sometimes people like the smaller scale stuff because no matter how they cut it, it's sort of going to look uniform. So if they invest the money to get the photography and all that stuff, they won't cut it and it'll look totally different from what they put on their website. And then that's an issue. But like for skirts, sort of the bigger pieces, tent dresses were big at one point. Anything that's big and like doesn't have a lot of lines, I like the bigger scale stuff because that shows you the full beauty of the design. And I like that bold statement, that where'd she get that from, right? Look, if I see you in the street and you have something amazing, I'm going to tell you. I'm not going to even tell you what I do or nothing. I'm just going to say, wow, you look great. And I mean, so depending on what it is that I feel like more for the business set, if they invest the time and money to get pictures made, product pictures, then they want something that's going to look pretty uniform. So they look for something a little smaller.
Yeah. Well, what would you like to share with our audience? Is there anything special that you want our audience to know about your shop?
Come visit my shop. Come take a look around. I specialize in the bright and bold fabrics. Not only do I do Ankara, I do Bazin, which is sort of, it can come in cotton or polyester, and it's normally, it has designs, but it's like embossed. It doesn't have all of the colors, so it'll have usually one color and you'll see designs embossed in it. People try that out sometimes. It's interesting because it's cotton, but it's shiny, or maybe polyester, but it's shiny. I also sell gele, which is if you look of the ornate headpieces you might see African women wearing, that would be something you would use gele for, but not for clothes. So don't buy gele for clothes unless you don't want it to move. Like if you're making a corset or something and you need that extra structure, okay, do that. But otherwise, don't do it. And then I work with brides. I guess I don't have that on my website, but I do work a lot of times with brides who are looking to have like their entire family wear the same. It could be Ankara. I just spoke to a bride in Philadelphia just now who's getting married in July, and they want to wear lace. So I don't normally carry lace because people have their colors. I can't manage all of that, but I do personal shop for brides. So, which is why sometimes I'll say, hey, anyone want to work with the bride in Philadelphia or, wherever. So
CJ, I have another question for you. I know that you get this question, and I know other people, I have seen it actually, like on Instagram or in the comments on YouTube when it comes to Ankara fabrics. Is it okay for other cultures outside of the African culture to wear Ankara fabrics?
What a great question, because I get it all the time. And the short answer is absolutely yes. Ankara fabric, even historically, wasn't originated in Africa. It's something that Africans have adopted and made their own. And I personally don't see anything wrong with other cultures, anybody really wanting to try out Ankara, wear it, embrace it, celebrate it. I think that's amazing. I think that's what we're all doing. I think sometimes people feel like because they are using something, it would be considered cultural appropriation. And for me, technically, you would have to be saying, I created this, or my ancestors made this. And if you're not saying that, which I've never encountered that, most people just want to wear it, play around with it, experiment, have fun, love it. I don't see any problem with that at all. So I'm so glad that you asked that question, because I get it all the time. There's no one who should feel hesitant about wearing Ankara because it looks good on everybody.
Yeah. Well, I have one additional question. Yeah. What about the symbols? Are there certain symbols within the Ankara prints that maybe people should stay away from, or is everything okay? Or, because I heard some of the symbols or the, images are symbolic. So
Now, that is a good question. So let me say this. The cultures that I found that have emphasized more of the imagery and symbolism are normally in the country of Ghana. And so there are fabrics that are reserved for special ceremonies, like the naming of a newborn child or like a funeral. And then if you get into different colors and symbolism in kente fabric, some of those are reserved for specific historical or royal families, etc. I don't know that the Ankara that I'm selling infringes or degrades that history in any way. And most of the time, that sort of kente is actually woven. So it's not the fabric like I'm selling. It's like woven, like someone on a loom is, doing their own tech. So, and that kind of Ankara, you wouldn't cut, like, make a skirt or something like out of that. That's normally, that fabric is sort of worn in its entirety. But that's a good question. And then a lot of times, as well, some fabric has different meanings depending on what country you're from. But none of them that I've ever heard are, exclusive to certain, people or anything like that. I lived in Ghana for a little bit, so I did actually study fabric and meaning and behind the fabric. But that's a great question. Sometimes people don't know what they're wearing, though. Mm-hmm. And like there's a fabric that's like called the evil eye, and it's like, don't look at my husband, but it's like, it depends on what part of Nigeria or what part, what African country you're from. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But yes, there's a lot of interesting stories in the fabric. So I may need to do something on YouTube about the stories.
And do you know how that originated because like you were saying earlier, how the African wax print fabric, or the Ankara fabric, I should say, was adopted mm-hmm. by the Africans, I believe through the mm-hmm. Dutch, right? And so, yes. So how did those symbolic things come about if it did not originate? Did they just kind of like look at the photos and decide this is going to go for this and this is going to go for that?
That's a good question. And I can't tell you for sure, but sort of anecdotally is like certain designs came out while certain things were happening. And so by association, those things were happening culturally or politically. And then again, things are happening and those things are different depending on where you're from. And so sometimes those meanings just came about because of what was going on. And this is a fabric that it's sort of like a song, right? This song comes out and this is what's going on in your life. And no matter where you are in time, like that's this association for you. So that's some of it. Sometimes also there are patterns that are printed for certain groups. And so then they may attribute the meaning to that. Like it may be a women's collective, or it may be a certain type of trader group that uses this. And so that's another way that meaning can become.
Okay, so there are some, like, even though they may not be printed there, may not be manufactured there, there are like certain requests where they get specialized printed fabrics and then it's just distributed throughout the countries in Africa.
Even till today, like if you have like all the politicians, they'll have their own Ankara, it normally has their face on it and then some sort of something in the background. So that's something that'll come out. So there are some groups like International Women's Day in Cameroon or something like that happens every year. And every year they ask me for that fabric. I don't have any suppliers in Cameroon, but I love the idea. And I've seen the fabric because it's celebrating feminism and International Women's Day and things like that. So that's another one you'll see, and like, okay, whatever motif they're using every year will now become associated with something about feminism. So So yeah, I mean, it's big. It's still big. If someone is like turning 60, they may have 1,000 yards of whatever their face printed on a fabric and give it to everyone at the party. And everyone's going to make what they want to make out of it and come and, show their different styles. So yeah. So there, sometimes there's a lot going on in that fabric.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. I mean, I know you said you couldn't say 100% for sure, but the what you did, the information that you did give us, it makes a lot of sense, and it brings a lot more light onto that, because I, just kind of wondered. So
yeah, if you guys ever get a chance to go to just really any West African wedding, you'll see more of that, or like a retirement party or something. So
yeah, I don't know what part of the countries, or what part of the continent, I should say, that the weddings are from, but I've gone to a lot of them, and I love them. I just love them, and all the money thing and all
the money thing. Everybody wants the money thing. Make it rain on me. I want to be different. Yeah,
and it's so funny because my sister just got married this past September, and we did the money thing at her wedding.
I know.
So it's a very nice experience.
It is amazing, and that's like going back to why am I in this business, right? Like, to bring the culture. We're all connected. And there was such enthusiasm after Black Panther that people really wanted to know. So, I mean, that's awesome. So,
Well, we'll probably close out this interview. But I just want to thank you so much.
Absolutely.
You're so welcome.
Oh my gosh, for taking the time to sit with us and let us know all the special things about your shop. I know that our subscribers and followers will absolutely love hearing everything about you and what you have to share with us. Talisha, is there anything you want to say?
Yes. So just to our audience, like Shereé said, thank you so much for, giving us all of this information that I'm sure is very helpful to even people that don't even inquire about it. They may just wonder and just have never asked about it, but this is going to give them more information. And for those who do want to try it for the first time, or for those who just want more, CJ, our guest here, has graciously offered us with a special code that will allow our viewers to get a free cut of Ankara fabric with the purchase of $40 or more. This will be a mystery fabric, so whichever fabric CJ has in hand that she can give on out, you make that purchase of $40 and you will get that cut. So, $40 is not a lot. You can get 6 yards for $40, and then you'll get your additional. Maybe it would be even something that you can pair with the fabric that you purchase, and you can color block, do all types of fancy things. But we will have more information about that in the description box below. So yes, definitely make your purchase, use your code, and show us something fabulous. Tag CJ, she is on Instagram, and tag us. And we definitely want to see.
Awesome.
Well, stay tuned to our next episode. And Talisha, you want to tell them what our next episode's about?
Yes. For the next episode, we are going to be introducing the first garment that we will be making with our Ankara fabric. And my Ankara fabric will be something that is featured from CJ's shop. So
look at that, guys.
But so do you have anything else, Shereé?
No, I don't. I think we should probably close it out. Thank you.
Oh, you're so welcome.
I feel like I learned so much from you today.
Yeah,
I didn't know I knew so much.
So thank you. Thank you once again. And to our viewers, make sure you give her a thank you in the comment section below. And don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel so that you can be notified whenever we have more episodes of this series. And I think that's all.
Thank you guys so much. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Stay tuned for the next episode, which is December the 6th, where we will be revealing the very first garment in the Elevate with Ankara series. Talk to you soon. Bye.